Good morning and welcome to our online service for Sunday, January 31st, 2021. Please join me in our welcoming statement. No matter who you are or where you are on your life's journey, you are welcome here.
This land is your land, this land is my land. From California to the New York Island, from the Redwood Forest to the Gulf Stream waters, this land was made for you and me. As I was walking that ribbon of highway, I saw above me that endless skyway. I saw below me that golden valley. This land was made for you and me. I've roamed and rambled, and I followed my footsteps to the sparkling sands of her diamond deserts, and all around me a voice was sounding. This land was made for you and me. One bright Sunday morning, in the shadow of the steeple, by the relief office, I seen my people. As they stood there hungry, I stood there asking, is this land made for you and me? When the sun came shining and I was strolling, and the wheat fields waving and the dust clouds rolling, as the fog was lifting, a voice was chanting, this land was made for you and me. Nobody living can ever stop me as I go walking that freedom highway. Nobody living can make me turn back. This land was made for you and me. As I went walking, I saw a sign there, and on the sign it said, no trespassing. But on the other side, it didn't say nothing. That side was made for you and me.
I'd like to talk now about that song, This Land Is Your Land by Woody Guthrie. So I got the idea to talk about this on one of our online services after watching the inauguration. It's the first time I've ever actually watched one, and that song really jumped out at me, and I've always been a fan of that song, and I always think it's interesting to hear the history. Actually, NPR ran the article that's from a couple years ago, kind of talking about the history of it and kind of Woody Guthrie's history and legacy, and it's probably his most famous song. And how there's the common verses that we're all very familiar with that are rather patriotic, at least how they're interpreted today, but then there are also some that are more justice oriented, and just kind of how those kind of all work together in the interesting history of that song. And then a couple days later I got an email and the subject line really popped, and it said Unpacking This Land Is Your Land by Woody Guthrie. And the email was from one that I subscribe to called Anti-Racism Daily. And so I was pretty intrigued. And I'd like to share this morning some of that email that came to my inbox earlier this week. The author is Nicole Cardoza, and she writes, "The inauguration was heralded as one of the most inclusive yet, centering not on diverse political leaders, but with nods to various cultures and identities. But Indigenous communities were disheartened to hear This Land Is Your Land performed during the ceremony, a song that celebrates the land this nation owns without acknowledging how it was acquired, by the genocide, oppression, and forced removal of Indigenous communities that initially called it home. When the performance started, I couldn't stop crying," said Jordan Marie Daniel, a Lakota advocate and professional athlete, in a phone interview. "This land has been stolen. It is stolen. We did not give up these lands. They were taken from us." She stresses that the narrative in the lyrics contribute to the erasure of the centuries of colonization, enslavement, racism, and systemic oppression that Indigenous communities face and have faced in this country. The song contributes to the broader whitewashing that this country is great and has always been great, and we know that it's not true. Many are quick to note that the song itself wasn't designed to be a patriotic anthem. Famous folk singer Woody Guthrie wrote "This Land Is Your Land" in the 1940s as a sarcastic retort to Irving Berlin's "God Bless America," which he felt was being overplayed at the time. The original song included lyrics that were more critical, that have been lost across the decades, and I think we heard some of those in the recording from Maria this morning. And even more radical verses that were never released, juxtaposing farmer struggles, depicting struggles of toiling farmers, poverty, hunger, and land disenfranchisement. But today, only the sanitized versions are sung most often, and they're often sung alongside "God Bless America" or other patriotic songs at large events. But as Ray Zaragoza, a singer, songwriter, and podcaster of Indigenous descent, emphasizes, there's a difference between impact and intent. Guthrie may not have intended for this song to come off as an anthem for colonization, but that's exactly how it's being used today. As a songwriter, she explains, I can't imagine how it would feel if someone chopped up my song, but that's the impact. She emphasizes that regardless of the other lyrics, the chorus itself is insensitive. Daniel agrees. People can always say, but wait, that's not what it's supposed to mean. But this is how it makes people feel, and isn't that more important? So, what do we do? All agree that a land acknowledgement is a good place to start. Land acknowledgements change our relationship to this land. Having that recognition, honor, and sense of respect in those spaces is critically important, stresses Daniel. Young agrees. People say that land acknowledgements are simple, and they are, but they are also significant. They acknowledge the contributions of Indigenous communities and can apologize for the harm that's occurred, which is the bare minimum, she notes, towards reparations. Anyone can practice a land acknowledgement, and everyone should. Young also emphasized that the only way we can move forward, the only way we can heal, is by naming our nation's dark history. We have so much more opportunity to tell all of our stories through the music we choose to elevate. So thank you. For me, it was very eye-opening, and as soon as it was pointed out to me about that chorus, it did make sense. The poem I'm going to share next is by Amanda Gorman, and if that name is familiar, she was the young poet that read or performed during the inauguration, and if you have the chance to see her performance, I highly recommend it. I felt like I could not do her words justice, and so, but I did want to share her words, and so I've chosen another poem that she wrote. She actually wrote this at the beginning of the coronavirus pandemic, and I feel like the words she shares and wrote down still feel very true today. The Miracle of Morning by Amanda Gorman. I thought I'd waken to a world in mourning, heavy clouds crowding, a society storming. But there's something different in this golden morning, something magical in the sunlight, wide and warming. I see a dad with a stroller taking a jog. Across the street, a bright-eyed girl chases her dog. A grandma on a porch fingers her rosaries. She grins as her young neighbor brings her groceries. While we might feel small, separate, and all alone, our people have never been more closely tethered. The question isn't if we can weather this unknown, but how we will weather this unknown together. So on this meaningful morn, we mourn and we mend. Like light, we can't be broken, even when we bend. As one, we will defeat both despair and disease. We stand with healthcare heroes and all employees, with families, libraries, waiters, schools, artists, businesses, restaurants, and hospitals hit hardest. We ignite not in the light, but in lack thereof, for it is in loss that we truly learn to love. In this chaos, we will discover clarity. In suffering, we must find solidarity. For it's our grief that gives us our gratitude, shows us how to find hope if we ever lose it. So ensure that this ache wasn't endured in vain. Do not ignore the pain. Give it purpose. Use it. Read children's books. Dance alone to DJ music. Know that this distance will make our hearts grow fonder. From these waves of woes, our world will emerge stronger. We'll observe how the burdens braved by humankind are also the moments that make us humans kind. Let each morning find us courageous, brought closer, heeding the light before the fight is over. When this ends, we'll smile sweetly, finally seeing, in testing times, we become the best of beings.
If I had a hammer, I'd hammer in the morning, I'd hammer in the evening, all over this land. I'd hammer out danger, I'd hammer out warning, I'd hammer out love between my brothers and my sisters, all over this land. If I had a bell, I'd ring it in the morning, I'd ring it in the evening, all over this land. I'd ring out danger, I'd ring out warning, I'd ring out love between my brothers and my sisters, all over this land. If I had a song, I'd sing it in the morning, I'd sing it in the evening, all over this land. I'd sing out danger, I'd sing out warning, I'd sing out love between my brothers and my sisters, all over this land. Well, I've got a hammer, and I've got a bell, and I've got a song to sing all over this land. It's the hammer of justice, it's the bell of freedom, it's a song about love between brothers and my sisters, all over this land. It's the hammer of justice, it's the bell of freedom, it's a song about love between my brothers and my sisters, all over this land.
Our reading today is from Psalm 146, verses 5 through 9. But happy is the person who has the God of Jacob as their helper, whose hope is in the Lord their God, the God who made both earth and heaven, the seas, and everything in them. He is the God who keeps every promise, who gives justice to the poor and oppressed and food to the hungry. He frees the prisoners and opens the eyes of the blind. He lifts the burdens from those bent down beneath their loads. For the Lord loves good people. He protects the immigrants and cares for the orphans and widows, but he turns topsy-turvy the plans of the wicked.
Let freedom span both east and west, and love both south and north, in universal fellowship throughout the whole wide earth, in beauty
join me for the seasons of hope. I will say the name and ask you to echo them after me. This morning we pray for the family of Jay, the family of Michael Leathers, Mary, Linda, Sarah, Barb, RJ, the Rodriguez family, Bob and Joe, Dan, Bob, school staff and students, essential workers, caregivers, leaders and advocates of justice around the world. And for gratitude and acts of kindness this morning, we have a letter of thank you from the Trondheim Lutheran Church. Dear congregational UCC members, kids, and adults, thank you for working alongside our church to deliver hope in the form of baby layettes to the new moms and babies in Haiti. You are a part of an important ministry. The 100 layettes that your members packed and blessed with prayer during the Christmas season will be delivered to the clinic in February, along with other essential supplies. Thank you for helping bring God's love to the people of Haiti. And for acts of kindness, I wrote a letter to a friend telling her what a gift she was in providing daycare for my little boys over 45 years ago. She gave them such wonderful memories.
Hey Esme, what does our still speaking God require?
No.
To do justice. Can you say it louder? Do justice. To love kindness.
Of us.
To walk humbly.
With cats.
Good job. Good job.